The text message came through at 9:47 p.m., a simple line of text that should have been nothing more than an innocent update. But I knew, without even finishing it, that she was lying. Staying late for the conference. Don't wait up. I didn't have to ask why. It was already too familiar, the hollow excuses, the vague promises, the things she'd said for months now that seemed to fall apart the second I tried to look closer. This one was no different. Staying late for the conference? Sure, but somehow I knew better. I was sitting in our living room, the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background as I balanced my laptop on my knees. Contract law notes were scattered across the coffee table, their disorganized presence echoing the state of my life. The house felt unusually still, like a place that was no longer really home, not in the way it once had been. Her perfume lingered in the air, the expensive stuff she bought after her promotion. The scent I once adored. But lately, it felt foreign. It was something she wore for work, not for me. It had been a long time since I felt the warmth of her perfume when she came home. I'm Ethan Cole, 35 years old, a night school law student, and apparently the world's biggest idiot. My wife of 7 years had started calling me a loser for months now, a label I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. Night school is for losers, Ethan, she'd spat just last week, the words dripping with disdain as I headed out for my evening classes. Real lawyers don't study at night with janitors and single mothers. Yeah. Well, this loser was about to graduate at the top of his class, and this loser was starting to notice things. I pulled up the conference schedule on my laptop. The legal tech summit she'd mentioned was supposed to end at 6 p.m. I checked. Twice. The venue closed at 7, yet it was now almost 10, and she was still at work? It didn't add up. My phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a message from Jen Parker, my coworker at the consulting firm where I worked days to pay for school. Saw something today. Call me. I didn't hesitate. I dialed immediately, my heart rate quickening as I waited for her to pick up. Ethan, look, I don't want to be that person, but... Jen paused. I could hear the sounds of her kids yelling in the background, their voices piercing through the phone. I saw Miranda today, at Roselli's, that Italian place downtown. My stomach churned, but I kept my voice steady. Okay, I said, not letting on that something was already gnawing at me. She wasn't alone, Jen continued, and I could hear the hesitation in her voice, like she wasn't sure how much she should say. There was this guy, tall, maybe 50, silver hair, expensive suit. They were... Another pause. They looked cozy, Ethan. Real cozy, holding hands across the table. She was laughing at everything he said. I was silent for a moment, the words sinking in. The truth, that small seed of doubt I'd planted months ago, was starting to grow. My stomach twisted, but I couldn't let it show. What time was this? Around 7:30, Jen replied. I was picking up takeout. I almost went over to say hi, but something felt off. The way they were sitting, their body language. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean to. Don't be, I said quickly, my voice flat. Thanks for telling me. I hung up and stared at my phone, its screen glowing back at me. The message from Miranda was still there, taunting me. I didn't need to open it. I already knew. But I did anyway. Her location sharing was still active on our phones, one of those couple things we had set up when we were still pretending to be happy. It had been 2 years since then, and I never thought she'd stop using it. The blue dot was firmly stationed at her office building downtown. But Jen had seen her at Roselli's, 8 blocks away. I grabbed my keys without thinking twice. The drive downtown was short, but suffocating. Each minute spent in the car only fed the unease crawling through my veins. I parked 3 blocks from her office, killing the engine and sitting there, waiting. My old Honda Civic blended into the street parking, an invisible witness to the unfolding scene. The law school had taught me a lot about evidence, about building cases not on assumptions, but on facts. You needed timestamps, Patterns, real proof. I'd been noticing patterns for weeks. Miranda's late nights had started in March, just after she got that promotion. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, a job that demanded travel, client dinners, and endless conferences. I never questioned it. Why would I? I trusted her. We had a life together, a house, a future, a plan to have kids. It had all seemed so simple then. But things had shifted. She got promoted. I started law school, and we began to drift apart. "You're never around," she'd said to me in February, her voice strained. "You're always studying. We never have fun anymore." I had tried, desperately. God knows I tried. Date nights, weekend trips, expensive dinners that drained my bank account. Nothing worked. She had grown distant, cold. Her phone password changed one night, without me asking. She started showering as soon as she got home, not even bothering to say hello. At 10:15, a black Mercedes pulled up in front of the building. My breath caught in my throat. Miranda stepped out of the lobby and she wasn't alone. The man from Jen's description walked beside her. Tall, silver-haired, his confident stride marking him as someone used to getting what he wanted. His hand rested possessively on the small of her back as they walked toward the car. I snapped a series of photos with my phone, capturing everything: clear shots, timestamps, location data. This was evidence, concrete proof. They didn't kiss. Not in front of me, anyway. But the familiarity between them was obvious. The way he opened her door for her, the way she smiled up at him, her smile, the one I hadn't seen in months. That smile that once made me feel like I was the luckiest man alive. I followed them at a distance. Never too close. I stayed in the shadows, my heart pounding in my chest. The Mercedes drove to the Riverside Hotel, one of those boutique places downtown. Expensive. The kind of place you took someone special. I parked 2 blocks away and circled the block twice, watching them through the tinted windows of my car. By the time I reached the entrance of the hotel's underground garage, they were long gone. But the Mercedes was still there. Space C47. I memorized the license plate, took more photos, and then I saw it, a silver Audi parked 2 spaces over. The logo was barely visible in the dim light, but the faculty parking sticker from Henderson College stood out like a neon sign. Henderson, Miranda's alma mater. I pulled out my phone and started searching through the faculty directory. It took me a little while, but after 15 minutes of scrolling through staff photos, I found him. Elias Grant, Professor of Business Ethics, age 52, divorced, published author, a guest speaker at corporate events, Miranda's ex-boyfriend from college. She'd mentioned him once, years ago, in passing. "Just some guy I dated before I met you, no big deal." Right. No big deal. I stood in that parking garage, alone and cold, until after midnight, my hands shaking as I typed notes into my phone. Security cameras in the corners, exits, patterns. I had learned all of this in law school. Never reveal your hand too early. Build the case brick by brick. Let them think they have the upper hand until the very end. At 12:30 a.m., I drove home, my mind racing. Miranda's car was already in our driveway when I pulled up. She had beaten me home, probably taken an Uber from the hotel. I parked and sat in the car for a moment, gathering my thoughts, collecting the rage that threatened to consume me. She was asleep when I slipped into bed. Or pretending to be asleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios. Confrontation? Not yet. I knew better. Divorce lawyers would tell me to document everything first. Get my ducks in a row. I had been studying family law as an elective. I knew the drill. Joint assets, bank accounts, property. Everything had to be in my favor before I made my move. The next 2 weeks were spent in silence. I became a detective. I installed a phone tracker on our shared tablet, the one Miranda sometimes used for work emails. Completely legal in our state between spouses. I pulled bank statements, traced credit card purchases. Hotels, dinners, flowers I never received. She'd spent $8,000 in 3 months on things I had no knowledge of. I opened a separate bank account, moving small amounts of money into it every paycheck. Enough to build a cushion, but not so much that she'd notice. And then came the lies. Working late. Client dinner. Conference in Boston. Except the Boston conference had been virtual. I checked. But she had gone somewhere. The credit card charges revealed it. Hotel bills in Cape Cod. The same weekend, Elias Grant had posted vacation photos on his barely private Facebook page. I sat in the law library one evening, surrounded by study materials and classmates, trying to focus on tort cases. But I couldn't. My phone kept buzzing. Miranda texting about grocery lists, utility bills, playing the dutiful wife. It took everything in me not to scream. Instead, I smiled, replying with thumbs-up emojis. Each message felt like another knife in my back. Jen cornered me at work the following Monday. "You look terrible," she said, sitting across from me in the break room, her concern palpable. "Did you talk to Miranda?" "Not yet," I said quietly. "Ethan, I saw them again. Last night. Same restaurant. He had his arm around her." I nodded slowly. "I know who he is." "Yeah?" "College ex, business professor. Divorced. Midlife crisis probably." Jen winced. "What are you going to do?" I leaned back in my chair, my eyes narrowing. "I'm going to finish law school. Then I'm going to make sure she regrets every single lie she's ever told me." That weekend, I followed them again, this time to a Hilton out by the airport. Miranda had told me she was visiting her sister in Cleveland, her sister who lived in Phoenix. Her sister, whom I'd called on a hunch, who hadn't heard from Miranda in months. I watched them check into the hotel through the lobby windows. Elias carried her overnight bag like some kind of gentleman. My hands clenched around the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. Should I call 911? Report something? No, that was stupid, emotional. I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to be what Miranda had always said I wasn't. I needed to be a winner. On Sunday night, I bumped into Elias at a gas station. Pure coincidence, or maybe fate. He was filling up the Audi, checking his phone, completely unaware. I pulled up to the pump opposite him and climbed out. "Excuse me," I called over. "You're Professor Grant, right? From Henderson?" He looked up, confused. "Yes?" I walked over, extending my hand. "Ethan Cole. My wife Miranda took your strategic management seminar years ago. She talks about you all the time. Says you changed her whole perspective on business." His face went pale. Absolutely pale. His hand went limp in mine. "Miranda Cole?" he managed to say. "That's the one." I smiled, letting the moment stretch. "Small world, isn't it? Running into you out here. She mentioned you were speaking at some corporate events lately. Must be exciting, getting back out there after your divorce. Dating again, meeting new people." Yes, well," he pulled his hand back, visibly uncomfortable. "That's nice of her to remember the class." "Oh, she remembers everything," I said, never losing my smile. "Miranda's got an incredible memory. Dates, times, places. She never forgets a single detail." The color drained from his face completely now. "Anyway," I continued, "I won't keep you. Just wanted to say hello. Tell my wife I said hi, if you see her at any of those corporate events. I know she has another conference coming up soon." I walked back to my pump, paid, and drove off. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing there, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling Miranda in a panic. Good. Let them panic. Let them wonder how much I knew. 2 days later, I saw them together again, this time leaving town in a taxi heading toward the airport. Early morning, 6 a.m. Miranda had told me she was going to a pharmaceutical convention in Atlanta. I checked the flight schedules. No direct flights to Atlanta until noon. But there was a 7:30 a.m. flight to Miami. I sat in my car, coffee getting cold in the cup holder, and watched the taxi disappear down the street. In my notebook, I wrote down everything: date, time, direction, taxi company. Then I smiled. Planes are funny things, I said to the empty car, especially when someone knows exactly which one you're on. The law library closed at midnight, but I had a key. Perks of being a student research assistant. I spread my materials across the table in the back corner: bank statements, credit card bills, phone records, photographs, evidence. In the state where we lived, adultery didn't matter much for divorce proceedings. No-fault state. But it mattered for everything else: alimony calculations, asset division, credibility. I'd been married to an idiot who thought she was smart. Miranda had used our joint credit card for everything: every hotel room, every dinner, every romantic weekend. She'd been so confident I'd never notice, or too arrogant to care. She'd underestimated the night school loser. First move: freeze the accounts. I called the bank Monday morning, explained that I suspected fraudulent activity on our joint accounts. They froze everything within an hour, pending investigation. Miranda's cards stopped working by lunchtime. She called me at work, voice tight with panic. "Ethan, something's wrong with the cards. Everything's being declined." "Really?" I kept my voice concerned. "That's weird. Let me call the bank. Probably just a security flag." "It's happening on both cards, and I tried to transfer money from savings, but it's blocked." "I'll handle it. Don't worry." I didn't handle it. I opened a new account in my name only, transferred my remaining share of our joint funds, and closed the old accounts entirely. All legal, all documented. Our marriage was a partnership, and I was dissolving my half of it. Second move: the lease. We rented our house. Never bought. Another one of Miranda's decisions. More flexible, she'd said. We might want to move for my career. I contacted the landlord directly, explained that I'd be moving out at the end of the month and wouldn't be renewing. I'd pay my half through April, then I was done. The landlord was sympathetic when I hinted at marital problems. "Your wife want to keep the place?" he asked. "She can try," I said, "but the lease is in both names. If I'm out, she'll need to re-qualify on her own." Miranda made good money, but not good enough to afford our rent solo. Not with her shopping habits and affair expenses. Third move: information warfare. I called Jen. "I need you to do something for me," I said, "and you can't ask why. This sounds illegal." "It's not. I need you to keep tabs on Miranda at work, who she talks to, who she meets with, any unusual behavior. Can you do that? Ethan, please, I'll explain everything later. I just need eyes right now." She sighed. "Fine, but you owe me the full story." Over the next week, the pieces fell into place. Miranda and Elias were planning another trip. Miami again, according to their text messages. I'd gotten into her email using our old shared password. She'd never changed it for her personal account. Sloppy. They'd booked a hotel for next weekend. Oceanfront suite. Very romantic. I booked the room directly above theirs. Thursday night, I made my first real move. I'd been tracking Elias's schedule through the college website. He taught an evening seminar that ended at 9. I knew he stopped for gas at the same station every Thursday, routine as clockwork. I waited in the parking lot. When he pulled up to the pump, I stepped out of the shadows. "Professor Grant," I said, "we need to talk." He jumped, actually jumped. His keys clattered to the ground. "Jesus Christ," he gasped. "You scared me." "Good." I stepped closer, keeping my voice low and level. "I know everything. The hotels, the trips, the texts. Every lie my wife has told me. Every time you've touched her. Look, I don't know what you think. I don't think, I know." I pulled out my phone, showed him the photos. Him and Miranda entering hotels, holding hands, the timestamps, the locations, all of it. "I have enough evidence to destroy both of your reputations, yours especially. Tenured professor sleeping with a former student's wife. That'll play great with the ethics committee." His face went from pale to gray. "What do you want?" "Nothing yet." I smiled. "But I want you to know that I'm watching. Every move, every trip, every lie. I'm building a file that would make a prosecutor jealous. And when I decide to use it, your comfortable little life is going to explode." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm promising you." I leaned in close. "You wanted to play with a married woman? Congratulations. You picked the wrong marriage." I walked away before he could respond. Behind me, I heard him fumbling with his phone, probably calling Miranda again. Let him. Let them both stew in it. That Saturday, I drove to the hotel in Miami. Got there a day early, checked into my room, and waited. The hotel was nice, beachfront property, swaying palms and ocean views. The kind of place Miranda and I should have been visiting together. I spent Saturday exploring the building, located all the exits, the security cameras, the staff patterns. By the time Miranda and Elias checked in Sunday afternoon, I knew that hotel better than they did. Their room was 412, mine was 512. Same layout, one floor up. I heard them laughing as they entered, heard the door close, heard Miranda's voice, muffled through the floor, saying something that made him laugh. I waited until they left for dinner, then I went to work. I'd learned a few things in my consulting job. One was how to pick simple hotel locks. The keycard system had a maintenance override, and I'd sweet-talked a housekeeper with a $50 bill and a story about locking myself out. I entered their room quietly, didn't touch anything obvious. Instead, I moved small things. Shifted their luggage 6 inches to the left. Rearranged items on the bathroom counter. Turned picture frames slightly askew. Left her suitcase unzipped when I knew she'd zipped it. Then I placed a small wireless camera, barely larger than a button, on the bookshelf facing the bed. Not to watch anything gross. I wasn't interested in seeing that. But to record their conversations, their plans, their pillow talk. More evidence. Always more evidence. I was gone before they returned. Back upstairs, I listened to them enter through my phone app connected to the camera's audio feed. "Did you move my suitcase?" Miranda asked. "No. Why?" "It's... Never mind. I'm being paranoid." "You're just stressed," Elias said. "Ethan doesn't know anything. He's clueless." I smiled in the darkness of my room. Clueless. Right. Over the next 2 days, I recorded everything. Their plans to run away together once Miranda's divorce was final. Elias's promises to leave his teaching job, move somewhere new with her. Miranda's complaints about me, how boring I was, how I'd let myself go, how she deserved better. "He's going to be devastated," she said at one point, giggling. "When I serve him papers. God, I almost feel bad." "Don't," Elias murmured. "He held you back. You're better without him." I saved every word, every laugh, every betrayal captured in digital clarity. Monday morning, they left for the beach. I watched them go, then checked out early. I had a law school exam that afternoon, and I needed to get back. But I had everything I needed now. The camera stayed, a little parting gift. When I got home, I served Miranda with divorce papers, had them waiting on the kitchen table when she walked in Tuesday evening, suitcase in hand, tan from the Miami sun. She froze in the doorway. "What is this?" "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "I'm done." "Done? What are you talking about?" "I know about Elias, I know about everything. The trips, the hotels, all of it. I'm leaving, and you're on your own." She dropped her suitcase. Her face went through several emotions. Shock, anger, fear, calculation. "You can't prove anything." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Miranda, I have 3 months of documented evidence. Photos, bank statements, hotel records, text messages. I have video of you two in Miami. I have everything." "You've been spying on me?" "You've been lying to me for months. You called me a loser while you were screwing your college ex-boyfriend. So yeah, I gathered evidence. That's what losers do, apparently. We pay attention." She tried anger first. "You had no right." "I had every right. You're my wife. We're my wife. And now you're about to be my ex-wife with no money, no credit, and no place to live. What are you talking about? The accounts are frozen. The lease ends next month. You're on your own for rent, utilities, everything. Hope Professor Ethics can afford to support you, because I'm out. Her face went white. You can't do this. Watch me. I grabbed my pre-packed bag from the closet. I'll be back for the rest of my stuff later. My lawyer will be in touch. Ethan, wait. I didn't wait. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. Jen had offered me her guest room while I sorted things out. I showed up with my bag and a bottle of wine. So you actually did it, she said, pouring us both a glass. Phase 1, I replied. Now it gets interesting. The next few days were chaos. Miranda called constantly. Texts, voicemails, emails, first angry, then pleading, then threatening. I ignored all of it and forwarded everything to my lawyer. Elias tried to reach me too. Facebook messages, LinkedIn, even a letter to my law school. All saying the same thing. Leave us alone. This is harassment. We'll get a restraining order. Let them try. I hadn't done anything illegal. Everything I'd done was within my rights as a spouse. Freezing joint accounts, legal. Ending a lease, legal. Documenting adultery, legal in our state with consent laws that allowed one party to record. I'd built my case carefully. They had nothing. The workplace gossip started within days. Jen wasn't subtle about spreading the word. Did you hear about Miranda and that professor? The story spread like wildfire. Miranda's reputation at the pharmaceutical company tanked. People stopped taking her calls, excluded her from meetings. I'd made sure to send a discreet email to her HR department, outlining concerns about expense account fraud. Nothing accusatory, just questions about unusual charges that didn't match reported business activities. HR started an investigation. Everything was falling apart for her, and I was just getting started. One evening, I saw Elias's car parked outside a coffee shop downtown. I was heading to the law library, but curiosity got the better of me. I parked and went inside. He was sitting alone, grading papers, looking haggard. When he saw me, he started gathering his things. Don't run, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. I just want to talk. I have nothing to say to you. That's fine. I'll talk, you listen. I leaned back, casual. Your department chair called me yesterday. Wanted to discuss some concerns about your relationship with former students. Seems someone sent them an anonymous tip about ethical violations. His jaw clenched. That was you. Was it? Who knows? Point is, they're looking into it now. Your relationship with Miranda, whether there was overlap when she was your student, whether you've done this before, must be stressful. You're harassing us. I'm protecting my interests. There's a difference. See, I'm almost a lawyer now, top of my class, actually. And I learned that the best revenge isn't illegal, it's strategic. I stood up. Enjoy your evening, Professor. Say hi to Miranda for me. I left him sitting there, pale and shaking. The next morning, Miranda filed a restraining order against me, claiming emotional abuse and harassment. Her lawyer argued I was stalking her, threatening her career, making her life impossible. My lawyer presented our evidence at the hearing. The judge took one look at the documented adultery, the financial fraud, the timeline of events, and denied Miranda's request. Mr. Cole has every right to end his marriage and protect his assets, the judge said. Nothing he's done constitutes harassment under the law. Petition denied. Miranda stormed out of the courthouse. I saw her in the parking lot afterwards, screaming into her phone. Probably at Elias. Probably blaming him. That evening, my lawyer called. Ethan, Miranda's attorney wants to negotiate. They're willing to settle quickly if you'll agree to certain terms. What terms? Split everything 50-50, no alimony, clean break. I laughed. No. No? I want her to walk away with nothing but the debt she created. Every hotel room, every dinner, every lie. She pays for it, all of it. That's aggressive. She called me a loser. She cheated for months. She humiliated me. My voice stayed calm, cold. She can pay for her choices. All right, my lawyer said slowly. I'll send the counteroffer. But Ethan, be careful. Pushing too hard could backfire. It won't, I said. Trust me. I hung up and looked out the window of Jen's guest room. Somewhere out there, Miranda and Elias were probably panicking, trying to figure out their next move. I was already 5 moves ahead. The flight tracking app was no longer just a tool. It had become an obsession, an unyielding companion. I checked it constantly, as if it were my personal oracle, predicting their every move. Every time I saw a new booking confirmation email appear in Miranda's account, an account I still had secret access to, my pulse would quicken. It was a dangerous cocktail of excitement, impatience, and the exhilarating fear that something might go wrong. But I had prepared for everything, down to the smallest detail. This time, Miami. It had to be Miami. I felt a sense of déjà vu creeping in, the familiar sting of betrayal mixed with a cold satisfaction. The trip was booked for Friday morning, returning on Monday. I could already see the lazy stretch of the beach, the sun glistening off their false happiness. The same hotel, the same pattern. But this time, they thought they had outsmarted me. The reservation was only under Elias's name, and they had paid with his credit card. They must have thought that was clever, but they had forgotten something crucial. Miranda had synced her calendar with the shared family tablet. She never bothered to remove my access. Amateur mistake. Predictable. As I stared at the blinking entry on the screen, Conference, Miami. I couldn't help but chuckle. Very creative, Miranda. I could almost hear her voice in my head, trying to rationalize it, to convince herself it was okay. But it wasn't. I swiftly booked a seat on the same flight, the same row 3 rows behind them. No hesitation. A baseball cap shaded my eyes, a pair of sunglasses obscured my intent gaze. I blended into the crowd of travelers effortlessly, just another faceless figure, invisible. At the airport, I spotted them instantly, like a picture-perfect moment in a glossy magazine. Elias's arm around Miranda's waist, their laughter almost too carefree, their heads close, as if nothing else in the world mattered. I gripped my boarding pass tightly, my knuckles white, but my face remained impassive, neutral. I reminded myself, patience. Timing is everything. The flight itself was a study in restraint. I acted casual, pretending to focus on the tort cases on my tablet, my thumbs scrolling mindlessly. But my ears were on high alert, every snippet of their conversation, every laugh, every cough. I couldn't risk missing a single thing. They deplaned first, just like I expected. I gave them a 10-minute head start. Precision was key. I let the time pass, focusing on each breath, steadying myself. I followed, methodical, deliberate. Once on the ground, I watched them hail a cab to the hotel, their voices blending with the hum of the airport. I chose a different route, my steps calculated, purposeful. By the time I arrived at the hotel, I imagined them already in their room, probably lounging on the beach, maybe even sipping cocktails by the pool, blissfully unaware of the storm I was about to create. I'd already made preparations. I rented a car in advance, parked it 2 blocks from the hotel. It was inconspicuous, well hidden, just out of sight. The car itself was nothing special, but it served its purpose. I maneuvered it toward the hotel's parking garage, eyes scanning for Elias's rental. It was easy to spot. A distinctive Avis sticker on the bumper, a small but noticeable detail. I parked directly behind it, leaving just enough space to ensure he would hesitate if he tried to back out. I retrieved my portable tire deflator from the trunk. It was small, discreet, and almost invisible unless you were looking for it. With methodical precision, I deflated 2 of his tires, letting the air seep out slowly, quietly, until they were flat. No slashing, no damage, just a minor inconvenience, a small catastrophe. it would be enough. Back in my room, I settled in for a long wait. I ordered room service, a steak, potatoes, and a glass of wine. The wine wasn't something I wanted, but I drank it out of habit. A ritual, a reminder that I was in control. I logged into the hotel's security cameras via the Wi-Fi. The password was laughably simple. No need for any hacking skills, just exploiting someone's carelessness. A few clicks and I had access to the feed. I didn't care about the food or the wine. I was watching. I was waiting. At 10 p.m., I saw them on the screen. Miranda, glowing in a crisp white dress, Elias's jacket draped carelessly over her arm, the tie loosened. Their heads were close together as they laughed, completely unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. I waited an hour, just enough time to let the tension build before I made my move. The parking garage was dimly lit, the shadows providing perfect cover for the confrontation. I positioned myself just out of view, hidden behind a pillar. As the clock struck midnight, I watched them emerge, calm and casual, perhaps planning a late-night drive or a beachside stroll. I couldn't resist. "Tire trouble?" I called from the darkness. They froze. Elias spun around, his face twisting in confusion. "Who's there?" I stepped into the light, letting them see me. My smile was calm, almost amused. "Remember me?" Miranda's face shifted from confusion to horror in an instant. "Ethan? What the hell are you doing here?" "Vacation," I said, my tone light, almost cheerful. "Perfect weather, isn't it?" "You followed us?" Elias's voice shook with fear, the bravado cracking. "This is harassment. We'll call the police." "Go ahead," I said, raising my phone to show him the time-stamped photos, the location screenshots, the hotel receipts. "You can explain to the police how you've been flaunting your affair. How long has it been going on? Months? I have evidence, Elias, and I'm sure the ethics board will be very interested." "You bastard!" Miranda hissed. "Careful," I said softly, moving closer. "That's the man you married, Miranda. The one you swore to love. Remember?" Elias recoiled, his face pale, his composure shattered. 52 years old, and yet here he was, trembling before me like a schoolboy caught in a lie. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to get those tires fixed. You're going to check out of this hotel, and you're going to go home. And from this point on, you're going to stay the hell away from my wife." Miranda stepped forward, defiant, but I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes. "Or what? You've already frozen my accounts, kicked me out, and turned everyone at work against me. What else do you want from me?" I studied her face, this woman who had once been everything to me, the woman who had promised me forever, now a stranger. "Do you really want to find out?" I said, my voice colder than before. Her step faltered. For a moment, I thought she might break, but Elias grabbed her arm urgently, whispering something to her in a low voice. "Back inside," he muttered. "We'll handle this later." "Smart choice," I said. My voice was steady. "Sleep tight." I turned and walked away, leaving them behind, their faces a mix of anger, fear, and confusion. Miranda's voice rose behind me, her words desperate, Elias trying to soothe her. But it didn't matter. The point had been made. They had been warned. The next morning, I set my plan in motion again. I installed a trail camera on their rental car. It was a small device used by hunters to track animals, but it served my purpose perfectly. I watched, waited, and recorded. I needed to observe their every move. By 8 a.m., Elias was already outside, dealing with a tow truck, inflating the tires, checking for damage. He looked frustrated, but there was nothing he could do. They thought they could outlast me. Let them. Saturday passed slowly, a series of small, calculated annoyances. Noise complaints that couldn't be traced back to me. Signs pointing them in the wrong direction. Towing. Bureaucratic chaos, each step of which I orchestrated from a distance. It was the kind of stress that built up without anyone knowing where it was coming from. By the afternoon, I watched them argue in the hotel bar. Miranda's arms flailed in exasperation, while Elias attempted to placate her with soothing words. The tension between them was palpable. I could almost hear their voices from the screen. By dinner, the desperation had set in. Miranda was speaking to a flight attendant at the front desk, handing over large sums of cash. They were trying to buy an earlier flight. Escape. I picked up the phone immediately. "I need to report suspected fraudulent activity on Flight 447, I said calmly. "The names may not match the IDs. It wasn't true. It didn't matter. It was enough to trigger secondary screening. Panic spread quickly. They were escorted aside by security. Miranda's eyes scanned the area frantically, her gaze sweeping the crowd, searching for me, but I stayed hidden. Patience. Always patience. They missed their connection, stranded overnight. I flew home direct, rested, composed, and victorious. Sunday morning brought an email. Final settlement offer. They were offering everything. The house, the savings, the car. They were willing to give it all. But it was too late. I crafted a counteroffer, surgical and precise. Miranda admits fault in writing, assumes full financial responsibility, and publicly acknowledges the affair. I would spare Elias's career. My lawyer's call was brief. This is insane. Adulterer committing expense fraud, generous. Public statement? Never. Trial. Every photo, every recording, every financial document will be made public. All the dirty details. How do you think that'll play? There was silence on the other end. Talk to her, the lawyer said. That evening, I began receiving texts from Miranda. We need to talk. Please. Ignored. Another text. Just coffee, I'll explain. Ignored. Finally, the phone rang. Curiosity won. What? I answered, my voice flat. Ethan, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Please. Her voice was raw, exhausted. I'm not destroying you, I said calmly. You're destroying yourself. I'm just making sure you own it. I loved you. I still... No. You loved what I represented. Stability, security. Then boredom led you elsewhere. Lies. You humiliated me. You called me a loser while misusing our money. I know. Wrong. HR's investigating. Ethics board on Elias. Everyone's silent. You've made life hell. Good. I hung up. I blocked her number. Texts kept coming. Apologies, threats, bargaining, anger. The 5 stages of grief compressed into frantic digital paragraphs. But it didn't matter anymore. I slept. Finally at peace. Monday morning arrived, and with it, my resolve solidified like concrete. I'd been waiting for this moment for weeks, watching, documenting, calculating every step with precision. This was no longer just a divorce. It was a reckoning. I walked into my lawyer's office with a thick stack of papers in my hand, one that would change everything. It was an amended divorce petition, and this time, it was airtight. 300 pages of evidence, photos, bank statements, emails, receipts, recordings, each piece meticulously compiled, each one a puzzle piece fitting into the broader narrative of betrayal, fraud, and adultery. My lawyer, a seasoned veteran, looked at the pile like it was some sort of explosive device. His eyebrows furrowed, a skeptical look in his eyes. He set down the pen he'd been twirling and pushed the stack aside. This is overkill, he said flatly. The judge doesn't need all this. We've already got enough to make our case. I shook my head, my eyes hardening. No, I want it all on record. Every lie, every hotel room, every dollar she stole from our marriage. I want it documented in court proceedings so when people search her name, this is what they'll find. He sighed, his patience visibly thinning. Ethan, you're not just divorcing her. You're destroying her. I leaned forward slightly, my voice steady but cutting. She destroyed us first. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. He didn't respond, just stared at me for a moment, then pushed the papers toward his assistant. The wheels were in motion. Miranda wouldn't know what hit her. By mid-afternoon, the papers were served. Miranda was at work when the process server found her, walking through the office halls with the same casual air she'd always had. Her colleagues must have wondered why the process server was handing her an envelope, one that would lead to her undoing. I'd specifically requested public service. It wasn't just legal, it was petty. A calculated move to ensure her humiliation would be a public affair. Jen, ever the loyal informant, texted me later that evening. She came out of that conference room crying. Everyone's talking about it. I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not guilt, just cold, unfeeling determination. The pieces were falling into place, and nothing could stop me now. That night, Elias made his move. I was leaving the law school library when I noticed something odd. A black Audi was trailing me. It kept its distance, staying 3 cars back, probably thinking he was being subtle. But I'd been in this game long enough to know better. He wanted to keep tabs on me. He wanted to intimidate me. I took a longer route home, looping around side streets, testing him. He followed the entire way. When I pulled into Jen's driveway, Elias parked across the street. Just sat there, watching. A silent challenge. I didn't blink. I went inside, grabbed my phone, and made the call that would further escalate the situation. There's a man parked outside my residence, watching the house. I don't know him, and I feel threatened. The patrol car arrived within 10 minutes. I watched from the window as they approached Elias's vehicle, questioning him, asking for ID. He was probably giving some sort of fabricated explanation, waving his hands, trying to explain away the situation. Maybe he thought he could talk his way out of it. But I wasn't in the mood for that. The officers spent 20 minutes talking to him before sending him on his way with a warning. One of them walked up to my door afterward. "You know this guy?" the officer asked, eyes narrowed with suspicion. "He's involved with my ex-wife," I said flatly. "I have an active divorce proceeding, and he's been harassing me." The officer nodded, clearly understanding more now. "He says you've been harassing them. I have documentation proving otherwise. Would you like to see it?" I didn't offer any explanation, just the facts, cold, irrefutable. The officer shook his head. "Just stay away from each other. If he comes back, call us again." I nodded, closing the door behind me. The night was far from over. But Elias didn't give up. Over the next week, I spotted him 3 more times, once outside my office, once near the law school, and once near my gym. It was clear what he was doing, trying to intimidate me, trying to break me. Wrong move. I wasn't about to let him off that easily. I spent the following days researching Henderson College's policies, digging into the fine print of their ethics code. That's when I found the key. Their policy explicitly prohibited relationships with former students within 5 years of graduation. Miranda had graduated 7 years ago, but the thing that had slipped under Elias's radar? She'd taken a 1-semester executive education course 3 years ago, taught by none other than Elias Grant himself. I pulled the evidence together quickly. Enrollment records, course schedules, payment receipts. Then I cross-referenced everything with hotel bookings and travel dates. The affair had started shortly after that course had ended, 3 years ago, right within that 5-year window. I compiled it all and sent it to the ethics board at Henderson College, detailed, comprehensive, signed with my name. No more anonymity. This wasn't a whisper campaign. It was a clear call for justice. I also included my willingness to testify if needed. The response came faster than I anticipated. Less than 48 hours later, the ethics board had opened a formal investigation. Elias was placed on administrative leave pending the results. That night, Elias called me. His voice was shaking with barely contained rage. "You've ruined my career. 20 years of teaching, gone because of your petty revenge," he hissed through the phone. I remained calm, almost detached. "You ruined your career. You slept with a former student. You violated ethics codes. I just made sure the right people knew about it. I'll sue you for defamation," He spat, the words dripping with venom. I smiled to myself. Good luck. Everything I submitted is true and documented. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. But please, take me to court. I'd love to put all of this in front of a judge. He hung up without another word. 2 days later, Elias made his biggest mistake. He tried to follow me again, but this time, he wasn't subtle. He was aggressive. I was driving home from work when I noticed the Audi speeding up beside me at a red light. He rolled down his window and began shouting. "You think you're so smart! You think you've won!" he yelled, his face twisted in fury. I kept my window up, my expression neutral. The light turned green. Without a word, I drove forward. He followed, honking, tailgating. He was trying to provoke me, but I was in control now. I led him on a chase through the city's parking garages. The structures downtown were a labyrinth, multi-level concrete mazes with tight turns and one-way lanes. I knew them well from my consulting job. Elias didn't. I took him up to the 5th level of one garage and then doubled back down a ramp he couldn't see. By the time he realized I'd lost him, he was stuck on the top level with no way to get out. I parked my car across the only exit ramp. I called the police again, my voice calm. "A man has been chasing me through the parking garage. I feel threatened. I've had to block the exit to protect myself." The officers arrived and found Elias on the top level, agitated and pacing, trying to figure out how to escape. They cited him for aggressive driving and issued a temporary restraining order on my behalf. "If he comes near you again, call us immediately," one of the officers said before walking away. I drove off, leaving Elias to explain himself. At work, the gossip reached a boiling point. Jen kept me updated on everything. Miranda had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into the expense fraud. Several clients had requested new representatives. Her professional reputation was in tatters. "Her face looks like it's been hit by a truck," Jen said over coffee one morning. "She's lost weight. Dark circles under her eyes. I almost feel bad for her." I didn't. I looked Jen in the eye and replied coldly, "Don't. She made her choices." Jen hesitated, glancing down at her coffee. "Still, this is pretty brutal, Ethan." "She called me a loser," I said, my voice steady. "She spent months lying to my face. She destroyed our marriage without a second thought. Would you feel bad if someone did that to you?" Jen didn't reply. She didn't need to. The divorce proceedings moved forward, and Miranda's lawyer filed a motion claiming emotional distress, arguing that my actions constituted abuse. They wanted the judge to sanction me, possibly award Miranda damages. The hearing was set for Thursday morning. I showed up in my best suit, clean-shaven, composed. Miranda was there too, but she looked different. The woman who had once been so confident and polished now appeared haggard, her expensive clothes hanging loosely on her frame. Her lawyer presented their case first, painting me as a vindictive stalker who had systematically destroyed her life. He made me sound like a monster, a man bent on breaking her. It was everything I'd expected, and more. Then, my lawyer stood. He didn't waste time. He presented our evidence in a methodical, surgical manner. The documented adultery, the financial fraud, the lies, the timeline showing that everything I had done, every step I'd taken, was lawful, justified, and necessary. Mr. Cole is a man who discovered his wife's betrayal and took lawful steps to protect himself, my lawyer said, his voice measured. He froze accounts to prevent further fraud. He documented the adultery for divorce proceedings. He reported ethical violations to the appropriate authorities. None of this constitutes abuse. It's simply a man defending his interests within the bounds of the law. The judge reviewed the evidence for what felt like hours. The room was silent. Finally, she spoke. "I find no evidence of abuse or harassment on Mr. Cole's part," she said. "While his actions have been aggressive, they remain within legal boundaries. The motion is denied. We'll proceed with the divorce as scheduled. Miranda's face crumpled as the weight of the decision hit her. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but she just shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. Outside the courtroom, I saw her sitting on a bench, tears streaking down her face. Elias was nowhere to be seen. She was alone. I almost felt something. Almost. But then I remembered her laughing with Elias in Miami, remembered her calling me a loser, remembered every lie she'd told me. I kept walking. That evening, Miranda's lawyer called mine with a new offer. She was ready to sign whatever I wanted, admit fault, accept all debts, and give up any claim to assets. She just wanted it to end. "She's broken," her lawyer said, his voice laced with desperation. "Please, just let this end." My lawyer looked at me expectantly, waiting for my decision. I paused, then looked him in the eye. "One more thing. I want the statement in writing. A full confession of the affair, the lies, the fraud, signed and notarized." My lawyer hesitated. "Ethan, that's my offer. Take it or leave it." The next day I received the signed statement. 3 pages, detailing every aspect of Miranda's betrayal in her own words. Reading it felt almost cathartic. But I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in late April. I sat there in the courthouse, watching the judge's signature stamp the papers, the last step in erasing 7 years of my life, 7 years of false promises and betrayal. The paperwork was cold, official, but it was final. It was over. Miranda wasn't there. Her lawyer had informed me she'd signed everything remotely. Couldn't face me in person. Good. I walked out of that courthouse a free man, the weight of the last few years lifting off my shoulders, but the revenge wasn't complete yet. Not yet. For the past few weeks, I'd been quietly implementing the final phase of my plan. The social destruction. Miranda had already lost her job after the HR investigation uncovered evidence of the expense fraud. Elias had been fired from Henderson College after the ethics board had concluded their investigation. But their social circles, their little safe havens, remained intact. They still had friends, colleagues, a reputation, what was left of it. It was time to change that. I compiled everything into a single document, every photo, every receipt, every lie, every piece of irrefutable evidence. I called it The Truth About Miranda Cole and Elias Grant. It was professional, detailed, undeniable. And then, without hesitation, I sent it out. To everyone. Every single person in their social and professional networks, friends, family, colleagues, anyone who had any connection to them. Each envelope was carefully addressed, each email precisely crafted with a simple cover note. I thought you should know the truth about the people you associate with. Was it petty? Absolutely. Was it legal? Completely. Once again, truth was my shield. The response was immediate and devastating. Miranda's friends started blocking her on social media. I watched in real time as her follower count dwindled, her digital support system crumbling to dust. Elias? He received rejection letters from every college he had applied to for new positions. Word travels fast in academic circles, and his past, our past, was now a public record. They couldn't run from it. Not anymore. Jen called me that Friday afternoon. "Ethan, I heard Miranda had to move back in with her parents. She's broke. No job, no prospects, nothing." "Good," I said, my voice flat. "This is getting dark, though," Jen continued, her tone concerned. "Maybe you should stop. Just let it go." I leaned back in my chair, taking in the weight of what I'd done, but I was so close to the end. "I'm almost done," I said, letting the words hang in the air like a promise. That weekend, I learned that Miranda and Elias had broken up. The pressure of it all had torn them apart. According to gossip from Jen's network, they'd had a massive fight in a parking lot, screaming at each other, blaming the other for everything that had gone wrong. The affair that had destroyed my marriage hadn't even survived the consequences. They couldn't even survive each other. I felt something then. Not satisfaction exactly, not joy, more like closure. They'd lost each other. They'd lost their jobs, their reputations, their futures, all because they couldn't keep their hands off each other, all because of their decisions. On Monday morning, I graduated from law school, top of my class, with honors. I stood on that stage, diploma in hand, feeling the weight of everything I'd worked for. I looked out at the audience. Jen was there, cheering loudly, my classmates and my parents, who had flown in for the occasion. Miranda wasn't there. Elias wasn't there. They hadn't made it this far. They hadn't survived what I had. I had won. But the final chapter was yet to come. 2 weeks later, I passed the bar exam on my first try. Another victory. And then, as if the universe was aligning itself perfectly, I accepted a position at a prestigious firm downtown. My first day was a Monday, and I was walking to my car after the firm's orientation when I saw them, Miranda and Elias. They were standing on the street corner, getting into a taxi just outside my office building. They looked rough. Miranda's clothes were cheap, wrinkled. She didn't even seem to care anymore. Elias, the man who had once held so much power, had aged 10 years in 3 months. The last remnants of the man he once was had vanished. They looked like shadows of the people they used to be. At first, they didn't see me. I stood there, watching. Then I heard them arguing. Their voices were carrying across the street, harsh, accusing, blaming. "We should have left when we had the chance," Miranda was saying, her tone low, frustrated. "How?" Elias shot back. "With what money? He took everything." "This is your fault," she spat, her voice shaking. "You said he wouldn't find out." "My fault?" Elias was almost pleading now. "You're the one who couldn't keep your mouth shut." I crossed the street, walked up to them, and stood right in front of them. They froze when they saw me. "Small world," I said calmly. Miranda's face drained of color. "Ethan." Counselor Cole now, actually. Just past the bar. I smiled, letting my words hang in the air. "How have you two been? Heard you've had some setbacks." Elias stepped forward, trying to put himself between me and Miranda. His voice was shaky, defensive. "You've done enough. Just leave us alone." "I'm not doing anything," I said, keeping my voice level. "Just saying hello to my ex-wife and her boyfriend. That's not illegal, is it?" I looked directly at Miranda. "You're looking well. Thrift store chic suits you." "Go to hell," she spat, her voice trembling with rage. "Already been there," I said almost casually. "Didn't care for it. But hey, at least I got out." I gestured at both of them. "Where are you two headed? Job interviews? Oh wait, nobody will hire you. Funny how that works." The taxi driver honked impatiently. "You destroyed our lives," Miranda said, her voice breaking, tears starting to form in her eyes. "You couldn't just let us be happy." "Happy?" I laughed. It was a bitter, hollow laugh. "You were happy lying to me? Happy spending our money on hotel rooms? Happy mocking me while I worked 2 jobs to support us?" I leaned in closer, watching the panic grow in their eyes. "You called me a loser, Miranda, remember? Night school loser." "Well, this loser just graduated top of his class. This loser has a 6-figure job waiting for him. This loser won." "We're leaving," Elias said, trying to pull Miranda toward the taxi. His eyes were wide with fear now, and I could see him trembling. "Good idea," I said, nodding. "But before you go, I want you to know something." I looked at both of them, steady, unblinking. "Every single thing that happened to you, you earned. Every job loss, every friend who abandoned you, every dollar you lost, you earned all of it. I didn't destroy your lives. I just made sure you couldn't hide from your choices." "You're a psycho," Miranda whispered, the words barely audible. "No," I said softly. "I'm just a man who refused to be a victim. There's a difference." I took a step back. "Enjoy the taxi ride. Hope you can afford it." They climbed into the taxi, and I watched as it pulled away, carrying them away from my life for good. I stood there for a moment, the spring sun warming my face. I felt the weight of it all, the finality. Then I turned and walked back to my new office building, my new life, my new beginning. Behind me, my old life was gone, burned to ash, and I'd lit every match myself. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Miranda had called me a loser. She'd been wrong. Losers give up. Losers accept betrayal. Losers let people walk all over them. Winners? Winners fight back. Winners make sure the people who hurt them pay for every lie, every betrayal, every moment of disrespect. I was a winner, and they would remember that for the rest of their lives. I walked into my office building, rode the elevator up to the 15th floor, and sat down at my new desk. The nameplate read, Ethan Cole Esquire. Not bad for a night school loser. 3 months later, I heard through Jen that Miranda had moved to another state, somewhere in the Midwest, working retail. Elias had taken a job at a community college in rural Montana, teaching freshman composition. They'd both disappeared from my world completely. I never thought about them anymore. Didn't check social media, didn't ask for updates. They were less than nothing to me now. Just two people who'd made bad decisions and paid the price. My life moved forward. I won my first case, got promoted, started dating again, though I was cautious. Probably would be for a long time. But I was happy. Actually happy. Not pretending, not settling, not letting someone make me feel small. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Jen at a coffee shop. She hugged me tight. "You look good," she said. "Really good. Like yourself again." "I feel good," I admitted. "Better than I have in years." "No regrets about how you handled everything?" I thought about it. Thought about the months of planning, the legal battles, the social destruction I had orchestrated. "No," I said finally. She wanted to make me feel like a loser. I showed her what a loser really looks like when they fight back. Sometimes the only way to win is to make sure the other person loses everything. Jen laughed. "That's dark, Ethan." "Maybe, but it's honest." I sipped my coffee. She had a choice. She could have left me honestly, filed for divorce, split things fairly, moved on like an adult. Instead, she lied and cheated and mocked me. So I made sure she understood that actions have consequences. "And now?" Jen asked, eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Now I'm free. Now I'm successful. Now I'm happy." I smiled. Now I'm exactly what she said I'd never be. We talked for another hour, catching up on life. When I left that coffee shop, I felt lighter than I had in a year. The revenge was complete. The war was over, and I'd won every battle. Later that evening, I was packing up my office when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" Breathing on the other end. Then, "Ethan?" Miranda's voice. I hadn't heard it in months. "What do you want?" I wanted to say I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything." I said nothing. "You were right, about all of it. I made terrible choices. I hurt you. I lied. I was awful." Her voice cracked. "I lost everything because of it. My job, my friends, Elias, everything." "I know," I said simply. "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it. Thought about the years of marriage. The good times before everything went bad. The woman I'd loved before she became someone I didn't recognize. "No," I said. "I can't. And I don't want to. You showed me who you really were, Miranda. I just made sure everyone else saw it too. I'm trying to rebuild my life. It's hard. Every job interview, people Google me and find that document you sent around. I can't escape it." "Good. Please, Ethan. Can't you just take it down? Let me move on?" "The truth doesn't have an expiration date," I said, my voice calm. "You did those things. You said those things. The internet is forever, Miranda. You should have thought about that before you called me a loser and destroyed our marriage." Silence. I hope someday you can let go of this anger, she said quietly. I'm not angry. I'm past anger. I'm at peace. You, on the other hand, have to live with your choices for the rest of your life. Every time someone Googles your name, they'll see what you did. Every time you try to start over, your past will follow you. That's not my anger. That's just consequences. You're cruel. No, I'm just done being nice to people who don't deserve it. I paused. Don't call this number again. We're finished. We've been finished. Move on with your life, Miranda. What's left of it? I hung up before she could respond, blocked the number, deleted any trace of the call. She was right about one thing, though. I had been cruel, strategic, legal, justified cruelty. But cruelty nonetheless. And I didn't feel bad about it. Not even a little. Because some people deserve their consequences. Some people need to be taught that you can't just hurt others without repercussions. Some people need to lose everything to understand what they threw away. Miranda was one of those people, and I'd been happy to teach her that lesson. I finished packing my office, turned off the lights, and headed home. Tomorrow was another day, another case, another step forward in my new life. The night school loser had become a successful lawyer. The cheated husband had become a man who refused to be a victim. The underdog had won. And somewhere out there, Miranda and Elias were living with the wreckage of their choices, while I moved forward into a future they'd never be part of. That was revenge enough. That was victory. That was justice.